Welcome to the programme. To Ukraine then first, where at least 20 people were killed last night in a new Russian attack on western Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said dozens more were injured when the strikes hit a residential block 9 stories tall in Ternopil. 470 drones and close to 50 missiles were used in the attack that also hit Ukraine's transport and energy infrastructure, leading to power cuts in several regions. This from Emerald Maxwell.
Firefighters and rescue crews continued their operations well into Wednesday after a deadly overnight Russian attack on this western Ukrainian city hit several residential high-rise buildings.
My brother is still on the 9th floor. We're waiting. We don't know where he is or what's happened to him.
Ternopil sits in relatively peaceful western Ukraine, where many people moved to as they fled danger along the front line. But Tuesday night, Moscow fired 476 strike and decoy drones, as well as 48 missiles of various types at targets across the country. 40 buildings were hit in Kharkiv in eastern Ukraine, leaving dozens injured.
First, there were 3 impacts somewhere nearby. Then there was a big strike. All the windows were completely blown out, and the smoke was so thick we couldn't breathe. So we took towels and soaked them in water to be able to breathe.
The Russian army has intensified its attacks in recent days, battering Ukraine's energy grid ahead of the winter and putting Ukraine's already stretched troops under pressure on the front line.
Every brazen attack against ordinary life proves that the pressure on Russia is still insufficient. Effective sanctions and assistance for Ukraine can change this.
Volodymyr Zelensky is in Ankara Wednesday in an attempt to reinvigorate frozen peace talks, nearly 4 years after the start of the Russian invasion.
Well, meanwhile, NATO has scrambled fighter jets over Poland and Romania after these Russian attacks, which focused on areas in western Ukraine near to NATO borders. This, of course, as President Zelensky, as we said, is in Ankara today, meeting Recep Tayyip Erdogan, and that amid reports that the United States is quietly pushing a 28-point peace plan that Kyiv worries could pressure it into unacceptable concessions. Well, for more on all these issues, I'm joined in the studio by Douglas Herbert, our international affairs editor.
There's a lot going on there, isn't there?
There is. Hi, Doug. Yes. Let's start then with these strikes near NATO's borders. You know, what do you think Moscow's signalling really by this?
Well, we're seeing more of the same, Angela. There's nothing breaking news headline in this. In recent weeks and months, we have seen NATO scrambling fighter jets on several occasions when Russian, either munitions or Russian drones, in some cases even Russian warplanes, have come a little too close for comfort to the border, that is Ukraine's western border with NATO during these Russian missile and drone attacks on Ukraine, or in some cases have actually strayed across that border. That's the case in this latest attack. The Romanian Defense Ministry actually saying that a Russian drone entered its airspace. Whether deliberately or not, the Defense Ministry isn't saying that. The implication is clear that this is, you attack that close to the border, there's a high chance that something like this could go awry. A drone could stray over the border. Romania, in response, scrambled 2 Eurofighter jets. Those are NATO fighter jets, as well as its own Air Force's F-16s. In response, you could say that's quite an overreaction, right, to one drone entering your airspace. But it's showing right now NATO is just sort of trying to get up to snuff in this, what is becoming and escalating, it seems, in recent weeks and months, of these types of incidents in which these munitions stray into their airspace or seem to threaten to do so because they're so close on Ukraine's western border. Poland, Allied aircraft also scrambling fighters in this latest incident during this massive drone and missile barrage on Ukraine, most of it focused on western Ukraine, scrambling jet fighters and everything to protect Polish airspace. So like I said, this is all of a continuum. The easy narrative, Putin is testing NATO resolve. How serious are they? What we've seen so far is perhaps NATO is well behind Ukraine in its ability to respond to these types of threats, in the sense that they're scrambling high-tech weapons, sophisticated, warplanes just for a single drone. You could say that's a little bit of literally overkill in this case. But it just shows that NATO is on edge. It's very jittery. Putin, whether his strategy is deliberate or not, military analysts are divided on that, but a lot do believe that this is Putin deliberately letting a few drones or munitions go astray just to see what the response could be. How far can he push it? Whatever the case is, it has become the talk of the town. It is the narrative in Europe now. Every time you have European defense ministers or NATO ministers or European ministers meeting anywhere in any forum, anywhere in Europe, they are talking about how to shore up their own defense, even as they strive to help Ukraine to shore up its defense.
If we take a look now at Zelensky in Turkey today, talking to Recep Tayyip Erdogan, what's at stake there, now in the light of everything you've said there?
And what's it going to yield? First of all, yes, Zelensky is in Turkey right now. Turkey has been one of the unusual, let's say, players in this geopolitical conflict that has the ears of both Kiev and Moscow. That is, its teams of negotiators have been able over the past few months, when there have been on and off very sporadic attempts to kickstart some sort of talks aimed at a ceasefire leading to eventual peace settlement. Turkey has been the one that has been able to sit down with both sides in various forums. What Zelensky is specifically doing is he says that the aim of this visit to Ankara is to, quote, to reinvigorate peace talks, which is putting it mildly, because those peace talks have not gone anywhere so far, despite the meeting between Donald Trump and Putin in Anchorage. Perhaps the reason they're going nowhere is because of that meeting. You could almost make the case. And also to get to the more sort of pragmatic here and now, real human life issue of prisoner exchanges, which has been the one area in which Moscow and Kiev have seemingly been able to reach some sort of agreements at times throughout this war, where nowhere else they can agree. On peace terms, a settlement, ceasefire, none of that. But at least on exchanges of prisoners, they've had limited success there. Turkey has played a brokering role. Let us be clear. He is in Turkey right now. Moscow is not. This is for Zelensky meeting with Erdogan to try to obviously make his case. And this comes in the middle of a week in which Zelensky has been doing a full court press across Europe. He was in Greece. He got a gas deal with Greece. We know he had a signal deal with France earlier this week, in which they signed a big Rafale contract, jet fighters, drones, air defense systems. He was also in Spain. So Turkey is the latest in a line of this sort of, I won't say cap in hand. It's not money. It's more weapons that he's asking for in this case, but trying to, at a desperate time amid these continuing barrages of Russian attacks, trying to keep the allies on board, trying to hammer home the message we need more than ever those air defense systems.
So Zelensky in Turkey, and we are now learning about this Steve Witkoff and Putin's special envoy having talks. This is all new. Tell us what you know about that.
This is according to one report. Let's be clear. One report in the U.S. press by Axios. And Axios reported that late last month, Steve Witkoff, yes, Donald Trump's go-to man for all talks, all peace talks, it seems anywhere in the world on any topic, met with Putin's go-to man for peace settlements, peace talks, a man named Kirill Dmitriev. And what did they talk about? They talked about just what you just said. This sort of framework for what's been reported as Axios is a 28-point plan. If that sounds familiar, remember a 20-point plan for Gaza. And it is reportedly modeled, I guess loosely, obviously the circumstances are vastly different, but modeled on the same type of framework as the Gaza ceasefire deal. So we have Trump trying to sort of, line up the pins here, after Gaza, pushing hard right now on a Ukraine and Russia deal. Where's the problem? Well, two things. One, the Kremlin has made very clear following that report. It has said it has not shifted its stance on what is required for a peace settlement. It is still insisting on its root cause terms. Those terms are recognizing basically the territory that it's already occupied as its own. So there's a territorial component there. Imposing neutrality on Kiev, limiting Ukraine's military, and lifting Western sanctions. You can imagine, especially on territory, ceding the occupied territory to Russia, that's a non-starter right now for Ukraine. They're saying that amounts to capitulation. It just won't have it. But Russia is not shifting its stance on root causes. So this report, be it as it may, 28-point plan or not, all we know is was a U.S.-Russia talks. The cynics would say it was simply about the U.S. trying to get some business deals started again with Russia, which has been Russia's big motive here, getting sanctions lifting, getting business going with Washington again. You can imagine that none of this is going down too well in Ukraine, even if they're not being very, very vocal and explicit about it right now. It is just a plan that's been reported in one part of the U.S. media. Whether it even gets off the ground, let alone come to fruition, that is a big stretch right now.
Okay, thanks. Well, we will learn more about it from you, no doubt, if it does come to more.